1 year ago, a powerful tornado tore through St. Louis, leaving a path of destruction. Hi, I'm Mike Bush. The tornado changed neighborhoods, damaged thousands of homes, and upended lives in just a matter of minutes. From North St. Louis to Forest Park, the scars of that day are still visible, and the recovery is taking longer than anyone hoped. What we do know is that in the past year, survivors have fought to rebuild. Volunteers and city crews have worked to restore what was lost, and communities have come together in remarkable ways. In this special report, we look back at the storm that changed St. Louis and the long road forward that continues 1 year later.
Things flying off over there. Roofs are flying off. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We need to get inside.
It only took minutes for lives to change forever.
I wonder if I sat through a tornado and didn't even know it with the sound of all the hail hitting me.
On May 16, 2025, a tornado tore through St. Louis.
Wow, look at the updraft. The clouds are actually going up. That's incredible.
It ripped roofs away. It flattened homes, and it left families searching for each other.
I was calling her name, everything, flipping over stuff, just, trying to get a response, no response.
For people like Reginald Holmes, the storm brought heartbreak. Dolores Holmes, a 70-year-old great-grandmother, was killed as she tried to reach safety.
She got a pulse. She can still be saved.
Shanta Gibbs, a certified nursing assistant, attempted CPR on her godmother.
I've brought back so many people over the last 20 years. And for me not to be able to bring her back, it's devastating.
Others survived by inches.
They say tornado, I'm taking cover.
Lakeisha Robinson was on a bus.
I looked up, the driver flew up out that seat and took cover. And everybody was just praying to God, praying to God.
Across West St. Louis, downed trees, power lines, entire neighborhoods unrecognizable.
It's bad, it's devastating over there. But man, it's rough. This is something.
But in the middle of all that destruction, there were moments harder to measure.
They're trying to gain access through a small entry, it looks like.
For 3 hours, first responders worked to reach a man buried beneath his home.
Right here.
45-year-old Garfield Lacey, trapped under 2 stories of rubble. Outside, his frantic family waiting. And then relief.
We feel blessed.
A home gone, but a life saved.
Considering the building collapsed on him, he's doing great.
In the days that followed, neighbors helped neighbors.
Everybody can't do everything, but everybody can do something.
A city has been picking up the pieces ever since. But a reminder that long after the storm passed, what mattered most was what couldn't be blown away.
Days after the May 16th tornado hit, Enright Avenue became packed with volunteers, and they came from all walks of life. Stay-at-home moms, contractors donating their skills, and couples pitching in after long work days. Now, we set out to highlight their efforts, but true to their nature, they wanted to stay out of the spotlight. Instead, they wanted to make sure that we focused in on the residents, the people who called this place home, as they continue to navigate this long recovery. Inside what used to be a kitchen, walls stripped, wires exposed.
This is what's left of the bathroom.
Larry Powell walks through what's left of his home.
It's been a nightmare. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. This is the dining room.
Powell's lived in St. Louis 35 years.
This is the foyer.
15 spent right here on Kensington.
This old woodwork here, I fell in love with it when I saw it.
On May 16th, everything changed.
This is where I was sitting. For some reason, I got up to walk to the bathroom, and I had gone maybe 10 feet when I heard this loud bang.
Powell put 3 walls between him and Mother Nature.
And before I could close this door, there was glass and debris coming around the door, and it caught my arm. And if I had been standing there, I'd been Swiss cheese.
The Academy neighborhood ripped apart in seconds.
And I came down the stairs, all the trees were uprooted. There was debris everywhere. You couldn't get down the street.
A tight-knit community now scattered.
All of us here, we've tried to bring the neighborhood up, and we know everyone by name, and it's just a shame that this is what we have left.
A year later, efforts to rebuild come with uncertainty.
My concern, though, is this house here. I am concerned about it falling into my house after I put so much money into it.
I'm in need of more help.
Just a street over, Eli Holt fights a similar battle.
We purchased this home back about 10 years or so ago, 12 years ago, and our goal was to rehab it and then move into it. About $10,000 from being totally renovated.
Last spring, they were close.
Everything was done except for taping the walls and putting up the doors and the floor. That's it.
Then the storm hit.
My wife was just crying. She said, I just don't believe. He said, who would have thought a tornado would come in the city of St. Louis?
Progress shouldn't be this hard.
I'm not asking for no handout. I'm just asking for a little assistance so we can just get and move back into our home.
A place where his family's legacy lives on.
I didn't want to lose it because I promised my oldest daughter I was going to leave this house to her.
Between broken windows and piles of bricks is a neighborhood left frustrated.
What has failed, in my opinion, is a lack of a comprehensive plan to deal with all these buildings.
The city, I'm disappointed, really. I am, because they could have done more. Every time we look around, it's a stumbling block.
But past the destruction, glimmers of hope.
Well, I'm the eternal optimist. I think that, we're going to come back even better.
Amid the pain, something else.
I am seeing the best of St. Louis. I never would have thought that St. Louisans would come together like they have.
A neighborhood tested in seconds. Rebuilding one day at a time.
How are we doing a year later?
Well, we're doing okay. There's still so much pain and trauma, and there's so much work to do ahead of us.
You were elected mayor, and I believe this tornado hit a month later. You and your administration had to jump into action and create a plan. What did that plan consist of?
You're right. I took office 6 days after the election, and 37 days after the election we were hit with the tornado. I was certainly in the process of building out a team. Immediately it was to bring the governor here and to plead for FEMA to be on the ground. FEMA didn't do that for us, and so when that became clear that we were going to be driving the response as a city, we had to start building out what that looked like.
I think a lot of folks will say, the plans are in place. If you need this help, apply here. But when you look at the tracker and you look at applications received, I think one said 2,500.
2,500 applications.
23 completed.
Yes, yeah. Home repair is so difficult, particularly when you're using public dollars. The city hasn't had an effective apparatus for home repair. We knew that. What we decided to do was to provide that program with some additional funding to try to see if that could be scaled up. It didn't scale up very well.
I think about 6 months ago you had a press conference or a community town hall, and one of the questions everyone kept asking is, where's the money? What is your answer to that question even now? Because people say they're still waiting.
They are still. We've deployed $30 million in interest in RAM settlement dollars. All said and done, the city, I believe, is right around $50 million in deployed resources.
Money dispersed.
Money allocated. Much of that has been dispersed.
Are checks being written every day?
Checks are being written on a regular basis, yes.
Community advocates have been rallying, as you're aware.
I am.
Some interrupting your state of the city.
Yes.
Were you pleased with how that was handled? 5 people arrested.
It's hard to put into words how I feel about that. The pain that our community is feeling is very real, and everybody deserves to have their voice heard. There were actions on both sides that were both proud and some that I felt like could have been improved upon. And I was also able to give a state of the city, which so many people had also come to hear.
Looking back this past year, is there anything that makes you say, we could have done that better, or I wish I would have done this.
If we would have known that we were not going to get certain things from the federal government, certainly we could have pivoted earlier. But there were so many unknowns, whether or not we could accelerate those local programs. That didn't turn to pan out as well as we had hoped.
Sam Page has called for a merge of county and city.
Yes.
Your reaction?
Well, you know, I'll say I do agree. If FEMA is going to remain the way it has and requiring cities to do this locally, my hope is that as a region we can be better prepared, better coordinated, better organized, better collaborative, and maybe better consolidated. Regionalizing how we think about emergency preparedness is absolutely something that we should, and we need to be working on as a St. Louis region.
Numbers have a funny way of telling us where we belong. And somewhere, under all those bricks, are 4 numbers that used to mean something.
2918 North Newstead.
Geraldine Spencer wrote those numbers for 26 years. On bills, on letters, on forms at the job she was heading to the day the tornado came.
No sooner than I got there, I saw the tornado coming.
Her son Garfield was still inside.
My daughter called me about less than 30 minutes later, said the house is gone.
He's right here.
3 hours buried alive. Until firefighters hauled him to safety, it all felt like an eternity then, until they compared it to the year that followed. She hasn't been back much.
It hurts too much to keep coming back and seeing the devastation and the loss of everything.
She stops near where a bedroom used to be.
Piece of the baby's bed.
Her grandson Cameron's room. He was napping there until she woke him up to come along for the ride to Clayton.
Can you believe that it's all still just sitting here?
Actually, no. I thought they would have started cleaning up on it by now. But nobody's done anything.
They see a lot more of Cameron these days. All of them do. 6 people. 1 2-bedroom apartment.
Can you get out the bathroom? I gotta use it.
Geraldine has been many things in her life. A homeowner, a mother, a grandmother. For the last year, she's been something she never expected. A tenant, with her daughter's landlord collecting the rent.
I'm used to having I had a whole lot of space and I loved it. But now, the space is gone.
Google Maps preserved this image of that house just days before the twister tore it down. Finding a comparable home in a different zip code costs $300,000 to $400,000. And the bank wants to know about numbers of a different kind. Credit history, employment history, and whether that part-time income is enough to cover the mortgage.
Yeah, FEMA sends out the checks, insurance sends out the checks, but the money only goes so far. So right now we're all crammed in a 2-bedroom townhouse paying $1,300 a month when we could be paying a mortgage.
She still knows her address by heart, but finding her way back home...
difficult, kind of hard, still trying to process and find a spot to move on.
The address is gone. The equity too. The numbers that come next just aren't adding up.
My family moved back here in 1940, and this was a beautiful neighborhood. It's deteriorating, and then the storm came along and helped out.
Nearly a year after the tornado hit this North St. Louis neighborhood, homeowners like 86-year-old Larry Thompson are living with daily devastation.
I just about need everything, because I'm here alone. I stay by myself. So that's it. Basically, I need help.
His porch is cracked and shifting. Something he worries about every time he leaves town for medical treatment.
I put those pieces down there so nobody, the mailman, when she comes, or anybody else, they don't fall through.
The Urban League has been working block by block to repair homes, but the need is still overwhelming.
The neighborhood has been hit pretty hard and everyone was in distress as soon as it happened.
Take Otha Thompson, who leads the weatherization program. Before the storm, he was helping people winterize their homes to get their utility bills down.
This is the start.
Now his team is doing much more to bring people dignity and get them back in their homes.
Being displaced from your home, I can't even fathom how that feels.
You can see the Urban League's work throughout the neighborhood.
We put a brand new roof on this corner house right here.
Fixing roofs, replacing windows, even laying down new floors. When the May 16th tornado happened last year, the Urban League helped 750 people get into hotels. Now about 35 people are still in hotels. So they've made a lot of progress. But the weatherization team is maxed out. They cannot help any more people unless they get donations. This is a long-term plan to get places like Lewis Place back to normal. Still, the need is all around.
But we can do some things to help you.
I wish I had some place to go, but where am I going to go? What am I going to buy? Everything is sky high, and the cost of everything has gone up tremendously.
This isn't just where Larry lives, it's also where his life happened. And it's where he finds hope in rebuilding.
Help, help, help. That comes to mind because I see certain things going on. So if we could help more people, then we could get more people to stay and new people to come in the neighborhood and this community flourish again.
Freezing a moment in time forever is one of the biggest strengths of photography. My name is Richard Sprengler, and I am a fine art photographer. The exhibit is entitled Classic St. Louis, a 45-year retrospective, and the tornado of 2025. I decided to come to North St. Louis after I learned of the tornado in order to document what happened to the city, and particularly the residents. Without photography, you really don't have a history of what happened. When I first arrived, I just couldn't believe the utter devastation. Everything is destroyed. The trees are snapped off. Telephone poles are broken in half. A new garage has been destroyed and thrown up on top of the van. I wanted to document what happened to the people that lived here and what they're living through, and in some way maybe I could help them. And by showing the world what happened is the way to do that, I believe. This is Norbert Thompson. He owned this home that he's sitting on the front steps of. He must have had a spirit guide that was watching over him, because he landed in the only spot in the house where he could have survived. If he had made it to the basement, he might not have lived, because the house collapsed into the basement. I was looking for photographs that tell a story. And unfortunately, there's not that many people up there because they all left, but showing what happened to their belongings, I felt was real important. There are very many cases where the house was lifted off of the floor, and there's the living room sitting there. There's the sofa, there's the television, there's bookcases. It was just a macabre, strange scene of this living room just sitting there all by itself, even with all of the belongings, but the people are gone. And that's the tragedy. I would like everyone to see these photographs, in particular people that are moved enough to want to help the residents. I initially was uncomfortable going to North St. Louis, knowing that there was a history of crime up there. But once I got there, what I experienced was nothing but kind, wonderful, loving people. And that was a life-changing thing for me. That's when I think of North St. Louis now, I think of those people. These folks still need help. You know, it's real easy to forget about the disaster a year later. And then in another year, it's further in the past, and pretty soon it's something that just happened a long time ago. I think everybody needs to ask themselves, what can they do to help these people?
The sound of heavy machinery knocking down these brick walls clash with the sound of praise.
He is risen. Yes. We are resurrected people.
Church members gathered together Monday to reminisce as the 120-year-old Centennial Christian Church gets demolished. The church was devastated during the May 16th tornado.
I know it's just a building, but it's the only home that I know.
Longtime church member Deborah Carter is in shambles Monday, seeing her home church torn down.
I can remember as a little kid, Reverend Hilton would stop me. I would go up in the bell tower and he would say, get down from there, Debbie.
On May 16th, Patricia Ann Pendleton died when these walls caved in on her. On Monday, 5 on Your Side talked with her husband, Harry Pendleton.
She was just a loving woman. It was a loving woman. You know, for 54 years, you can't help but be a loving woman and a person that you respect and love. And, you know, your best friend, as the cliche goes, everything that you wanted in a woman, I had.
Patricia spent most of her time at this church, serving neighbors less fortunate.
What she loved to do is to help the community.
And while the plan is to rebuild a new church at this same location in the Fountain Park neighborhood, church members like Deborah Carter are still mourning the loss of the old one.
We've been here for 121 years. We're not gonna leave. We're gonna build on this corner, and we're gonna continue to do what we did.
Nearly a year after the May 16th tornado, this is the sound of Fountain Park now. Okay. Neighbors rebuilding, 1 yard at a time.
The storm shouldn't stop us from taking care of our yards, you know. So yeah, I think everybody should get out and keep acting like they were.
Claire Washington is doing just that. Cleaning, planting, rebuilding. She owns 2 homes on this street, both damaged in the storm.
It was quite a bit of work, and I'm still working.
Across the street, Centennial Church, where Clara's friend, Patricia Ann Pendleton, was killed in the storm.
Every day we look at that church, it reminds us of May 16th. It hurts, she lost her life, you know, but her memory definitely lives on.
That grief is still fresh, but so is the determination to move forward.
As I look around and I see the new roofs going up and people taking care of their lawns, it makes you feel good. You know what I'm saying? So we could see some of the good out of this without having to see all of the bad.
Even as the 1 year mark gets closer,
it just doesn't seem like it's almost a year since we went through this.
But what Clara sees now isn't just recovery.
As I look down the street, I see it. Because I live here. I see the change. I see the difference. I look across the street, I see all those beautiful flowers over there. I can see the neighborhood trying to come back to where it was trying to get in the first place.
As the clouds gather once again over the Penrose neighborhood, for many here, the memory of May 16th, 2025 remains clear. There's still evidence of the tornado's aftermath on display. Now the new threat of wind gusts over 60 miles per hour and potentially large hail is a test of resilience.
I think it does cause a little bit of anxiety because you never know where it's gonna hit.
Calvin Motley has spent months rebuilding his block with donations, and the community has made significant progress clearing debris. Now, Motley is starting a new project, a soon-to-come community garden here at Penrose and Newstead.
We're gonna have some wild blackberries.
While the physical landscape is changing, the reality of living in a storm-prone region remains.
We just need to be prepared for if we hear the sirens, and that's a good thing. Last year we did not hear sirens. This year we've heard the sirens on a regular basis. We're in better shape.
He's encouraging neighbors to take storm warnings seriously and do their part to stay safe. Experts warn the overnight timing of this system makes it harder to receive alerts. People are urged to enable wireless emergency alerts and identify their safe place now. As Motley shifts his focus to safety ahead of the storm,
I want a different view out my window, and this will be a different view.
His vision for his neighborhood remains steadfast.
This is the north side. We're gonna always rebuild.
Ever since the tornado touched down, Natalie Hughes, known as the Brick Lady, has been on a mission to put North St. Louis back together, one brick at a time.
I don't think the 31 that we've touched is enough. I mean, when I still drive through the city, it's still a lot of devastation. It's still a lot of buildings, even with them tearing them down, it's still a lot of buildings that need attention.
And these aren't just any bricks.
What we have in St. Louis is like gold.
Natalie does this because she knows what those 4 walls mean to the people who nearly lost everything.
All of them are just so happy that they're able to stay in their homes. You know, they were so happy that we were able to come help them so quickly to get them over the hump, you know.
On a sunny Thursday in the heart of the disaster zone, the Brick Lady crew works to put a retaining wall back together so a homeowner can put her fence back up.
My goal for all the residents in the city of St. Louis is to get their buildings to the point where if a big high winds tornado does come through, your building will stand strong.
Her constant work in the neighborhood inspired carpenter Jermaine Sutton to learn a new skill that his city needed more of.
There's not a lot of contractors who are willing to take on these jobs that have the workers that are qualified or willing to do the actual work.
Natalie says she enjoys teaching and mentoring young people in her craft.
But I try to encourage them to and show them the importance of having a skill that can not just benefit you, but benefit the people around you.
Jermaine says looking through this lens has given him a whole new perspective.
What I'm doing ain't just like giving back to a neighborhood that I grew up in. I am helping to restore a family, and I'm actually helping to rededicate the historical side of St. Louis.
Just blocks away on St. Louis Avenue, more history being restored. Another Brick Lady crew hard at work in the new home of True Love Divine Apostolic Church of God, led by Bishop Aaron Calhoun, a tornado survivor.
I was in Forest Park at the time that the tornado hit, and a tree was coming down at me, and I hit my truck gas, and the tree missed me about 3 feet. And then I came all the way around from 44 back to our church, where we had people working in the church, and they had called me and said, Pastor, the roof is blown off the church.
He's not talking about their new home, he's talking about the church's first home near St. Louis Avenue and Newstead. The tornado tore off the roof and shredded the building to pieces.
It was too damaged, it was gone.
And where the congregation once prayed is now an empty lot. But they never lost their faith or each other, finding temporary places to worship until a miracle brought them to their new church home just down the street.
The pastor had passed away, I think in 2024, the elder told me, and then once he caught up with us, he said God told him that we are the people for the church. So here we are, and God is working it out.
The demolition of the old church led them to the Brick Lady.
Now we're restoring this building. I hired the Brick Lady to do all the tuck pointing, because when you got a building, you want to make it sound.
Bishop Calhoun says the restoration is the key to their future.
We had to redo this whole room, rip it out, and put it all back together. So we did the walls, of course, the ceilings, the floors, put in a new furnace.
They're working on the basement now, where they'll have offices and a kitchen to serve their community. The next phase, refurbishing the sanctuary.
We're gonna make it, but it's heartbreaking, yet it's exhilarating, because there's some things that are coming back, and it's gonna come back better. I believe we're gonna build St. Louis back better.
Something Natalie and her team are doing brick by brick.
When we do something, we wanted to stay as long as it was here. You know what I'm saying? It was here 100 years. We wanted another 100 years down the line, it'd still be there.
This is St. Louis helping St. Louis, and I think that means so much more to healing the actual city.
Attorney Mark Timmerman has run his firm here at Lafayette Avenue and Soulard, neighboring popular cafes and the busy farmers market. But his future lies here, at the intersection of Lee and North Newstead in North City. The land is currently a mix of overgrown grass and a structure falling apart, a remnant of the divestment and disaster that has defined this corner since the May 2025 tornado.
They actually counter-offered less than what I offered, and the counter-offers kind of like an acceptance of your offer.
Timmerman offered $5,000 to the Land Reutilization Authority for 4 lots. 7 months later, the deal is done, though he's expected to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars to restore this piece of the tornado zone. It wasn't an automatically done deal. Timmerman had to get buy-in from those who live and work here before he could get the green light.
like attorneys and auto shops. We had a good life back in those days.
That's the head of the Wesley House, a family resource center in North City since 1952. He's giving Timmerman his full support. After just returning to its home due to tornado damage, leaders at the Wesley House say the area is hungry for a rebirth.
And it's not only an investment, but it's a kind of a resurgence. We're about looking to engage, encourage, and empower.
Timmerman isn't alone. He's partnering with Calvin Motley and the new nonprofit STL Rebuild. Motley has been repairing homes with community donations and creating a new community garden that Timmerman envisions becoming a commercial anchor.
There's a dream to build out the whole corner, to have a coffee shop, a barber shop, small business incubator, places for kids to be and learn.
For the attorney who moved to St. Louis just days before the Ferguson unrest back in 2014, this is about proving that North St. Louis is worth it.
And when you naturally spend some time there, not only do you fall in love with the people, you start to see this vision and this dream, you start to see yourself there, I think. And that's what's happened.
The goal is to have his firm fully operational in Penrose within the next 2 years.
So first of all, it's a beautiful day in Forest Park, the #1 park in the country, right?
The City of St. Louis Forestry Department and Forest Park Forever join hands to improve the park.
A lot of places still hurting throughout the city, but it's something that gives hope to St. Louis when Forest Park is in good shape when people come to visit.
The partnership is phenomenal. Today's another example. Leslie and I work together very closely, but without you, we're basically helpless.
Forest Park encompasses 1,300 acres of multi-use land featuring forests, waterways, and recreation areas. It is the largest urban park in the U.S.
We estimate the Forest Park has somewhere around 50,000 trees. We have inventoried almost 13,000 trees that are identified, numbered, and that. So the ones that are not part of that, so the ones that we don't have inventoried are generally in our forested areas.
In May 2025, a powerful tornado struck Forest Park, resulting in the destruction of over 3,000 trees.
What we lost in a few moments, it's going to take generations to fully replace. Kind of gave us several problems right away. Immediately was the debris removal. Millions of pounds of debris were generated here in the park that had to be removed to provide safe place for the public to come and visit.
A year later, work is still ongoing and massive tree stumps remain.
Some of those things could be anywhere between 10, 12, 13 tons, depending on the size. Sometimes we have to take those big pieces, maneuver them in a way that they can be broken down into smaller pieces to even be handled.
The Grand Basin area was cleared of trees to construct the 1904 World's Fair, so some of those trees are now over 100 years old.
There were definitely some trees that were from that era. There was also a lot of planting that happened in the park, post-World Fair. I mean, the next 50 to 70 years after the World's Fair, there was still continuous planting. And then for the last 20 to 30 years, Forest Park Forever and the city forestry division have been doing a lot of planting in the park for trees. So there were trees that predated the World's Fair that were lost in the storm.
The plan to plant new trees is now in motion.
Our efforts are everything from trash collection, debris collection, to planting, stewarding, and caring for the landscapes in the park. We have the state champion witch hazel, which means it's the largest witch hazel in the state of Missouri. It's located over by the Victorian Bridge. We have a former state champion cucumber magnolia over near Kings Highway.
For future generations to enjoy.
Like many St. Louisans, May 16th, 2025 is a day that Pat Miller says she will never forget.
It started to rain, and I said, oh, it's just a little rain. I got back in my car, and the wind began to blow. My back window was blown out. Since then, it's just been like a living nightmare.
Nearly 1 year later, she sees progress in some parts of the city, but she says not much has changed in the Fountain Park neighborhood.
They haven't filtrated down to the little person. It was a lady here today talking about she need a place to stay. Where in the hell is the action?
Beginning Friday, action will be visible across North City as the Urban League and Regional Business Council mobilize for a weekend of service focused on recovery, restoration, and resources at a community cleanup and job fair before giving out household items and cleaning supplies Saturday and Sunday.
We have to treat this as a marathon and a sprint. We have to be working constantly to do things we have never done, but then know that this is here for the long haul and that we continue to amplify this as the #1 civic issue of the entire St. Louis region.
This weekend is the first step in the next wave of work that we're going to do together, and we're proud to do it with you.
Well, Mayor Kara Spencer has asked for $110 million in RAM settlement money to be allocated towards restoring the tornado-ravaged areas of the city.
We know that the RAM settlement dollars are not enough to make our city whole.
That's why Miller is requesting that the city establish a priority line for those impacted by the storm to eliminate the red tape associated with tornado recovery.
I could have gone someplace else. I want to come back to my neighborhood. It's time for the city of St. Louis to step up and do what's right.
For those living on Lexington Avenue, the scars of May 16th are still fresh. Michael McLemore has spent most of his life here, but finds the current conditions heartbreaking.
Memories of everybody, being outside together growing up. A lot of the people that were in some of the homes, they packed laundry baskets, and we haven't seen them since May.
While he's been working to rebuild his own walls and floors, he's surrounded by properties that aren't salvageable. The city wants to tear down many of them, but there's a massive funding gap. Back in December, Mayor Kara Spencer asked FEMA to pay to demolish 1,000 private properties, including vacant and condemned buildings that pose a public health threat. Last month, FEMA responded, denying the bulk of that request, saying it will not pay to demolish structures that were condemned before the disaster, nor will it cover properties where an owner has multiple buildings, as those are considered commercial.
It means that visually you won't see progress in neighborhoods like mine. A lot of these vacant buildings will probably stand for years as a result.
Local leaders are concerned the city could be on the hook for 80% of demolition costs. We need all the help we can get, Alderwoman Shamim Clark Hubbard said in a statement. I am not surprised with the direction FEMA had been going in. Due to decades of disinvestment prior, we have the responsibility and opportunity to figure it out and get it right. McLemore is now pushing the city to ensure this federal rejection doesn't drain the $13 million already earmarked for home repairs.
Hopefully we can rebuild and bring folks home.
Almost a year after the May 16th tornado, more than 120 buildings across a dozen North St. Louis neighborhoods will be demolished through a $10 million Senate bill recovery program. The city says crews are required to use continuous water suppression during demolitions to control dust and help prevent asbestos and lead particles from spreading. But Tony Stewart says that's not what he's seen.
I observed a couple of buildings, one here on Kings Highway and Natural Bridge. There was no water. You could see the dust just going wherever the wind blew it. So that really concerns me.
Stewart recorded this video a few weeks ago on Newstead Avenue, where an STL Recover sign can be seen outside the home.
It's not an issue as of yet, but I see it being an issue later on.
Even before the tornado hit, most of these buildings were already vacant and condemned. Now the city says they've become too dangerous to leave standing, and because FEMA won't cover them, this state funding is what's finally getting them torn down.
These are buildings that have been vacant, that have been decaying in these neighborhoods for decades, and the tornado just knocked them over and exacerbated the stuff that was already here.
Chief Recovery Officer Julian Nick says anybody who sees demolitions happening without water suppression should report it to the city.
People who see that and see that it's not happening should take pictures, they should document, and they should report to our office at 311 and directly report that claim of they see an active demolition happening, not according to protocol.
Volunteers spent hours Saturday trimming grass and picking up tornado debris to help North City neighbors like Andre Cross.
I was homeless. I've been homeless. I've stayed in a little Baco house. The tornado came and tore it up.
Cross says since the May 16th tornado, he's seen homeless encampments like these pop up all over North City.
We're not like this. I mean, people stayed in vacant houses and vacant buildings and stuff like that, but it ain't nothing like it is now.
Volunteers, both young and old, say the progress they made Saturday makes the lives of people living in these tents just a little bit easier.
Before you guys got here, this was all covered right here.
couldn't really see, could barely see the ground over here. So yeah, we're making really good headway.
Megan Donnelly volunteers with Grassroots Redeeming Love, a nonprofit born out of the May 16th destruction.
It's really sad seeing an area that already is a little underserved get hit so much harder than all of these other areas. I mean, it's just really heartbreaking.
I don't live in North City. I don't even live in the city. I live in the county. But I grew up in the city, and I think it's really important if you are someone who lives in St. Louis to love all of St. Louis, because if we're going to thrive, we have to thrive everywhere.
As you can see, there's about 30 volunteers out here in North City picking up storm debris. Organizers tell me they're trying to make the living conditions better for the people out here living on the streets.
This is truly a blessing to wake up in the morning and see people down here caring enough to come down here and clean up the neighborhood.
From crumbling porches to lingering debris, the tornado zone in North City remains a daily reminder of a neighborhood under pressure.
We talk about our community still in the rut that we're in almost a year later with the tornado debris cleanup and how fast we move with that.
Tydrell Stevens with Save Our Sons and Sisters, a division of the National Urban League, says the solution lies within the neighborhood itself. A new $1 million grant from the Missouri Department of Workforce Development and Higher Education is funding a massive hiring push.
At individuals that need job opportunities right now, right, and being able to work and give back to their community at the same time.
The program will hire up to 100 people right away. Workers will earn $20 an hour, well above the state's minimum wage. It's all to assist nonprofits and companies who are already on the ground.
And they get to learn skills. So we're going to have individuals out there training them and teaching them other skills as they're out doing the work as well.
The focus is on the small, critical repairs that keep tornado survivors from fully utilizing their homes.
It could be an individual whose steps needs to be repaired, right? This individual cannot get into their house because their porch is falling apart because of the tornado.
Participants can work up to 400 hours. For those who have felt forgotten since the storm, Stephen says this is the ladder they need.
Now, how do you get yourself, how do you climb yourself out of this hole now that it's been dug a year later after this tornado?
Catastrophic damage. The May 16th tornado caused a massive tree to crash through this home. This video shows the inside of Kim Brooks' bedroom right after it happened.
I'm just was happy to be alive. Okay. Whew.
Now, 1 year later, inside her North St. Louis home, Kim is unpacking. Each box, a small act of faith that life will feel normal again.
It's all going to be set up to the point I could finally sleep in my own house, and I'm waiting for that day.
That tree was 15,000 pounds.
So from there, and it fell all the way over, and it was mainly on this side.
It eventually took a crane to lift it off her home. In the meantime, her house stood open to the sky.
It rained a lot after the tornado, like that next, I want to say week and a half, it rained a lot. So all that moisture and that water was just coming through, going straight to the basement, or then got kind of going on floors and stuff like that, or the walls were so molded.
Then more setbacks. Brooks says she was scammed by contractors and even dealt with break-ins. The turning point? A neighbor's suggestion and a call to Catholic Charities.
Kim is a firecracker. She is someone who is really invested in her recovery and is going to do whatever it takes.
Talking about having this redone.
Catholic Charities connected Kim with the right resources, and the rebuilding began.
Almost so insulated. I do see that.
The back wall is days away from completion. And move-in day will mark 1 year since the devastating storm.
It's coming back full circle. And I'm glad that it is. It's showing that the people in the community really do care about each other.
And as Kim unpacks the moments from the past,
it's a whole bunch of memories.
She steps into the future, ready to make new memories.
I'm forever grateful. I'm forever grateful.
Newberry Terrace in North St. Louis, just 2 small blocks lined with large historic homes. Michael Berry's home dates back to 1908. In a neighborhood he loves.
You can tell when it's the holidays, everybody's has barbecue out, and music and things like that. Very quiet street.
But on May 16th, everything changed.
Storms caused extensive damage in and around St. Louis.
That day I was at work.
Trees down,
Homes, buildings collapsed.
I didn't know how bad the tornado was on this side because I work on the south side.
He came home to this.
When I came inside the house, the tree had busted out 2 of my windows, so I had a lot of debris inside the house, a lot of leaves and things like that. A lot of window damage was inside the house, and a lot of rain had came into the house also.
Next door, a home that sat abandoned for years was barely standing.
It was a fire that happened at that house, but it was still, the structure was still there. But after the tornado hit, this kind of how it looked.
While Barry is thankful his home survived and he's been able to repair his windows and roof, other critical improvements have stalled.
And I need a lot of brickwork done as well. But again, nobody's able to do it because of what's going on with this house here and the tree that left in my yard as well.
He's reached out for help.
So I've been talking with the mayor's office and somebody from the city on several occasions as to when they're going to do something with this house.
Delayed response, but still no action.
I got like 3 or 4 emails about being on a wait list, but that's been for about a year now.
We reached out to Julian Nix, the city's chief recovery and neighborhood transformation officer. In an email, Nix says they reached out to the homeowner of the adjacent property in early February and said, quote, at that time, the homeowner was opposed to demolition and the structure was not considered an immediate threat. But since our inquiry, Nix says, quote, the city is now working to reconnect with the owner and inspectors are being sent out. He adds, the property will likely be emergency condemned. If that determination is made, we will proceed with demolition due to the safety risk. Just 7 houses away, another tornado-damaged home collapsed on its own, captured on video by a neighbor a few weeks ago. Something Barry feels could happen to the crumbling house next door. A city recovery sign posted 5 months ago still sits blank. And despite new movement from the city, there's still no timeline.
I was certainly blessed that my house is still standing. But again, when you ride around and see other communities being improved and everything is built up and back to the way it is, and then you come to your own community and you see this, it's kind of frustrating.
The storm is long gone, but the threat of danger remains, and it's leaning toward Michael Barry's home.
And we just ask the city to pay attention to what's going on around here and help clean up the things that they're supposed to clean up. It really shouldn't look like this a year afterwards.
I hate coming in because as much as it has been done to be helpful for me, it breaks my heart to see it in this condition.
About 10 months after the tornado ripped through the Fountain Park neighborhood, Cynthia Williams' home is still completely gutted.
This was the living room. This is the dining room.
The roof was torn off. Windows were shattered. Water poured in for weeks. Mold spread all over, and Cynthia had to find a new home for her cat.
I have no walls. I have no plumbing. I have no electricity.
Then, to make matters worse, Cynthia says the exposed electrical wiring sparked a fire after the tornado. Then mold spread throughout the entire home.
The amount of mold after the fire within 24 hours just from that water was 100 times what it was from the tornado.
Cynthia didn't have insurance. She says the FEMA assistance she received doesn't even cover a quarter of the damage. She hasn't lived here since May.
It's depressing for me to see it down to the bare studs, really.
Nicole Gens met Cynthia about a week after the tornado.
We knew that her house was savable if she had help. And that help wasn't coming. So we just kind of got on our Facebook page and sourced volunteers and donations as we could.
Cynthia says Nicole's help saved her life.
When I met her, I didn't even want to sign up for FEMA. She helped me to do the paperwork.
Cynthia says on a fixed income, she simply can't afford the repairs still ahead. But with Nicole's help, she's holding on to hope.
My ground zero is when I can sleep in my house again. Until I'm sleeping in my house, I don't have ground zero.
Inside my home, I could just move on now. You know, my home is feeling good on the inside.
Outside, though, a stark reminder still stretches across his Fountain Park neighborhood.
I remember a lot of just noise, destruction, head just going in all directions.
1 year ago, this is where I met Stefan West on Fountain Avenue, helping neighbors clear debris left behind by the May 16 tornado.
What told you, like, I need to do something right away?
I think that's just that basic human instinct. Like when you see something wrong or you see somebody in need, you know, you just help. You know, that's the St. Louis that I grew up in, I grew up in and I was raised in, that sense of community. You know, not just, you know, this is everybody's problem right now. This park was filled with trees. You know, these beautiful homes were, you know, together. I mean, we didn't get as much sun in this park, I'll tell you that.
Remnants of those trees are all that's left, opening the skyline and reshaping the neighborhood. But some landmarks damaged during the storm are standing again, including the iconic Dr. King statue.
We didn't know if it was ever going to come back, so the fact that it came back is a blessing, and that was a reminder also of the resilience of the neighborhood.
On Wes's block, there are signs of renewal.
What are you experiencing personally with your restoration?
So personally, right now, we're still going back and forth with the insurance company. So what I noticed inside during the tornado was that I felt my house kind of shift. So I'm still dealing with it.
Others aren't as far along.
I know people that don't even have a top floor, and they're still going back and forth on insurance. So I mean, the idea that this is over and that was last year. Nah, we still living with it.
Even with the challenges, Wes says the storm changed how neighbors show up for one another.
And to live through something like that, it actually shifted my mind and it back to where I think it needed to be, which is community. And I think a lot of people are still realizing that.
Those connections, he says, remain strong.
Now, this whole circle around the park, I'm familiar with everybody now. So that's kind of giving me more of a sense of like safety, community, you know, more of appreciation for our neighborhood.
Still, residents say rebuilding efforts have come with delays and gaps in support.
I don't have the resources myself, you know, but if there's anything that I can do for us to give time and stuff like that, I can do that.
Some believe help could have arrived sooner.
They could have probably came out more on the cleanup side of things, like, you know, because people didn't have access to their streets and that sort of thing. And on the federal side, I feel like they probably could have cut the checks for people a lot sooner.
Even now, Wes says gratitude remains top of mind.
I'm very grateful to be here.
And as work continues in this park,
we're going to get it full of water.
The space is slowly becoming a place for new memories.
We were tested by this tornado, but it didn't break us.
Crews in O'Fallon Park grinding down what's left of hundreds of trees. Massive stumps ripped from the ground by last year's tornado.
Nature took its course and it literally destroyed this park. They probably lost 300 trees out of here.
It looked real different. It's like, it still looked like the tornado hit.
But just steps away, new trees and new life are already taking root. Nearly a year later, the recovery progress depends on who you ask.
It'd be like a lot of trees used to block it, keep it kind of private, but now it's just wide open. And it looked like it ain't been cleaned up lately.
For Darius Gardner, not much has changed.
It's an eyesore. It's really an eyesore.
But for Jason Broomfield, who's been fishing here for 15 years, he sees something different.
With the exception of the island, everything else is coming along. It's progressing.
Through a community-wide push, hundreds of trees have been replanted, and that work isn't slowing down.
As crews continue clearing out what's left behind, this weekend, City Forestry is calling on volunteers to come out here, remove debris, clean up, and rebuild parts of the park.
I'd probably volunteer, but it definitely should be put back and restored to how it used to be.
And with more severe storms expected.
Another storm can come through here and blow the rest of the trees down, and you just have to be prepared for that.
This drone video shows how the tornado ripped through some of these homes. City leaders say many of these structures were like this before the May 16th tornado, but the storm made the properties that much more dangerous. The buildings on the demolition list are across nearly a dozen neighborhoods within city limits, and according to city leaders, 36 demolitions are underway or completed already, with more expected in the coming months. Some residents have raised environmental concerns and concerns around whether or not any of these homes belong to people, but city leaders are assuring the public that these demolitions are absolutely vital for the sustainability of these neighborhoods.
As we talk about demolition of the zone, I know a lot of people are like, that's sad, these are a lot of people's homes. No, these are buildings that have been vacant, that have been decaying in these neighborhoods for decades, and the tornado just knocked them over and exacerbated the stuff that was already here.
Today, the risk of human error in sounding the sirens has been eliminated through full automation.
A process that is more than just updating the sirens. Since May 16th, the City of St. Louis Fire Department has had to manage the system.
In the days following the tornado, I assigned management of the siren system to the fire department. The fire department then immediately began routine testing and worked to ensure the system functioned as reliably as possible while a long-term plan was developed.
While it was still in the care of the fire department, the tornado sirens had to be activated by someone pushing a button. Now Mayor Spencer says that is no longer the case.
Automatically activates when a tornado siren is issued in the St. Louis area, something that did not exist on May 16, 2025.
St. Louis City Fire Chief Jenkerson assures the system works, even though work on the sirens is not done.
As of today, nearly the entire system is operational with redundancies in place to protect our citizens.
There are 3 sirens out of service. The fire department has portable ones in their place.
Deploying mobile units, of which there are 2, to ensure the enhanced coverage where it is needed.
There is also a new emergency manager for the City of St. Louis, Greg Favor.
The most significant change is not a piece of equipment, it's not a single policy. It is the dramatic way in which we now make decisions collaboratively across all of the resources that the city can bring to bear during an incident.
When it rains, I get scared, I duck down or I hide. It's like scary. I get afraid, I start to scream or cry.
Erin Zariah Wallace is still frightened by severe storms, especially after an EF3 tornado on May 16th ripped through her North City neighborhood.
My room was messy, that the house was messy, that we was like, it was just all a mess. Our neighbors' houses was destroyed. I thought like dinosaurs or something just came through.
What was the restoration process like?
It was like a long time, but we had to go through it because like we had to get our windows fixed slowly. Then our house, our roof, like, and the color of our house.
We see a lot of anxiety now in the community, and we want to make sure that our community knows that that's okay. It's okay to be scared.
Ann Vassmans with the American Red Cross says there's an emergency disaster hotline set up to help ease people's minds whenever a storm strikes.
Mental health is very, very important when it comes to these storms.
Red Cross leaders also say if emergency shelters are activated on Monday, they'll have resources available across the greater St. Louis region, including here in North City, an area still recovering from last May.
Usually it's a large area, and we set it up with cots, we set it up with blankets, we have volunteers there that can provide that comfort and care.
And while Zariah Wallace is grateful her family survived last May, she and other survivors like her are still cautious anytime there's gloomy weather.
We don't need nothing else to happen, and then when storms, like when it starts raining, kids get scared, they run into their houses or they duck down thinking it's gonna be another tornado.